Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet! Gino, that been Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today is a very special episode because it is towards the end of the year, and that means it's time to look back on the year that was, think about what we've done, the mistakes we've made, the friends we've made along the way, and just share some of those experiences with you. So this is not Game of the Year. This is kind of a year in review of the folks on the Deep Listens family of podcasts who stream a lot. I thought we'd check in on some of the recurring series that we've done and kind of do a little mini year in review of some of the games we've checked out. So joining me for this special episode, Chris ZombiePie Redacted. Hello, ZP.
Gino, I failed you. I believe I need to perform the seppuku live on this podcast right now. Looking at my metrics, it appears that the most popular thing that I ever uploaded onto YouTube and or streamed was Panzer Dragoon Saga, not adventure games. So as I have betrayed both my audience and my brand, I believe it is time for me to commit ritual suicide live on camera. Okay, let's get this. Let's do this. I got my spoon out.
Do you have your wazikashi?
Yep, I got my spoon.
See, the thing that's less believable
Spork.
is that he'd do something on camera. That's really the thing that gives away that this is a ruse. The other voice you just heard was Braden.
I hit my head out with a spoon.
Way to go. That other voice,
Ow.
you didn't need to do that. That other voice you heard was Braden ArbitraryWater Redacted. Hello. Hey, Braden.
Gino, I'm sorry I've disappointed you. I failed you. The most successful stream I had this year, according to my YouTube metrics, was my playthrough of Sonic Unleashed. And in order to, redeem myself and keep my honor, I've decided to ritually disembowel myself on camera. Hold it. Let me grab my short sword. Ah. Ow. Oh, God. Ah.
The theater of the mind. That's what it sounds like. That's what the last sounds of Braden are. Ow,
Was your
ooey,
most
ah.
popular stream even like a cartery? I thought it was like some sort of podcast prep thing for you. So you need to also commit ritual suicide with us.
I feel no shame, so I can't kill myself for honor.
Oh, look at you. Look at you, the hype beast. The hustler trying to get in on the industry, capitalisming your way to the top.
Nailed it. So before we get into everything, I'll do the normal plugs and then we'll set up some of this gimmick. A reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which would get you access to our Discord. We are currently 3 people away from having to play Sonic 06 and Ultima 9, which we are now calling Ultima Sonic 69. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I think that's a thing.
Yeah. That was my username on Usenet.
Yes, we are now 3 patrons away from having to perform Ultima Sonic 69. And so thank you for everyone who's joined recently. It's the end of the year. Maybe your New Year's resolutions to support the show and get on the Discord.
Let's just say we're DPing Ultima and Sonic, if you make it possible.
Dragon punching. So to with those plugs out of the way, just to set up, each of us have been doing our own separate streaming series focusing on a genre. I have my A Deck a Day Keeps the Doctor Away streaming series on twitch.tv/thatpinguino, where I play roguelike deck builders for the most part, deck builders of some kind. So I've been checking out a host of those. I've played quite a few this year, and I'm going to do my year in review on that, Goaty style. Braden, what is your series? Where can people find it?
So first half of the year, I did a lot of full playthroughs of games. such as aforementioned Sonic the Hedgehog Unleashed. I played both the Wii and the 360 version of that game. The Wii version is better. But neither game is particularly good, despite what the Sonic people will tell you.
They say a lot of things.
And then, also, and then back half the year, the Tower of Dubious Horror Games returned. This time with even more dubious.
Excellent. And so
or the same amount.
It's a similar amount of dubious. So yes, you have an entire catalog of horror games to go over. Horror in quotes, I feel like. Some of them less horrifying than others, but they all were on the tower, so, they all count. And ZP, what is your gimmick? Where can people find you? Oh, Braden, you didn't say where people could find you. At
Twitch.tv/ArbitraryWater.
That's it, yes. And then ZP, what about you? What'd you do for people who don't follow you on Twitch?
I play nothing but good games. I play the visual novels. I recently played this game that Braden and I will not stop talking about. It's called Higurashi. We're also moving on to Umi Neko. These are visual novels from the Dojin era of self-publishing in Japan. And I decided to kind of go off the beaten path and play what was my current game of the year. It's probably going to stay that way, Paranormicide, before I transition into the Eternites. I'm actually throwing my hitch. I'm going to redefine myself. I am now an anime JRPG YouTuber and Twitch streamer.
That's your thing now? So you're giving up on adventure games?
What are these adventure games? I think that Braden is the adventure. He has this series where he plays the best adventure games.
It's true. And
he's the adventure game streamer.
And then I got sidetracked and stopped playing adventure games.
So yes, as the person who actually appreciates the genre for all of its different permutations, unlike these chucklefucks, these chuckleheads, I play all adventure games, and I also play the post-Myst, let's say FMV and Weirdo games. I play the pre-Monkey Island adventure games. I play the post-Space Quest era of Sierra. I play a little bit of everything, whether it's text parsers, Scum, or Sierra parsers, or just click-based adventure games, slideshow games, FMV games, all of them. I love all of them for what they are.
Excellent. And
Except the weird post-2008, 2009 3D era, when we start to get into the Europe kept the adventure game.
Was Jack Keen this year?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It sure was. Hey, let's just say we got some real competition for worst game of the year, let's say, for me. But anyways, yes, I play adventure games. I play a lot of them. The first half of my year was nothing but adventure games, so much so that I feel like I neglected my podcasting duties. But, hey, that's a discussion for a different time.
Yep. So for people who want to check that out, twitch.tv/ZombiePie.
Yeah, I'm called Big Bill's House of Nasties at Comcast.net.
Twitch.tv/ZombiePie. That's where you can find it. So for the format for this show, we're each going to go over the best game we played for our series, worst game, and a game we would definitely want people to know about, even if it is neither of those things. And then the two people who aren't the category owner are going to come up with some categories for the category specialist to rank or nominate a game that they feel best wins that award. So why don't we start this with you, Braden? You're a horror game expert. You're the horror game expert among us. What was your best horror game that you played on your Tower of Dubious Horror games?
Oh, the best horror game?
Yeah, the best one.
I forgot to ask this. We should have probably discussed this beforehand. Are there quotations around the word best? Because, Gino, this redefines everything.
I'm gonna say best in this context is actually the one you'd recommend. Actually the
most
best.
pleasantest
Yes.
experience.
Yes,
Is there a category with quotations best? Because for me and Braden,
that's the interesting but neither best nor worst.
The biggest surprise for me, playing, let's say, a lot of very bad Resident Evil clones. And let me tell you, there are some real stinkers that I played this year. But the biggest surprise was a PS1 game called Trag.
Okay. Tell me about Trag.
So Trag is what if Die Hard, but also it's a Resident Evil game. And maybe some very good voice acting because it's a PS1 game. And so your super anime commandos trying to stop terrorists from blowing up a building. There's a cyborg teen girl who uses tonfas.
Of course there is.
It's very weird. And it's a very weird game. But it's also the only thing I've played so far, apart from like the intentionally playing a game that I enjoyed, which was replaying Resident Evil 0 and being like, yeah, I still like this game, despite how much guff it gets from people. Was Trag. I'm sorry to say there has not really been another ill bleed or blue stinger moment this year for me in horror games.
So you would say Trag is the best horror game you played this year? Yes.
Which is, I mean, Alan Wake 2 is the best horror game I played this year, but yes.
But it's not on the list. It's
not
on
the list. It's recent and not dubious. So yes, Trag. Check it out at your local Babbage's.
Excellent. So what then is the worst horror game among the tower?
Oh, that's easy.
This one's no competition, because I was with him when he was playing this.
Oh, God. Fucking... The worst thing I played this year was Escape Dead Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Daymare 1994, a disappointing follow-up to Daymare 1998, in that it is a slightly more competent and also way more boring video game. But the magic of Escape Dead Island is that it's continually bad in different and exciting ways, and also just a miserable, discordant experience.
For those who don't know, what is Escape Dead Island?
Okay.
What is the premise?
Yes, let me explain. So Escape Dead Island is a late era 360 PS3 game made by Fat Shark, who would go on to make the Vermintide and Darktide. But it is a third-person stealth action game set in the exciting world of Dead Island.
A game known for its trailer that was a complete psych out.
The game known for its trailer, the game known for the one of the best giant bomb TNTs, the Truck Wars 2011.
Yeah. A trailer so important to video game history that Wikipedia has a dedicated wiki page for the Dead Island original trailer because, the controversy therein.
Well, what if instead they shat out a stealth game in 2014, so the PS4 and Xbox One were already out. That is, it doesn't function correctly, and then the story is trying to do all of this mind freak stuff, and it's a bad time.
Braden, you have to explain to Gino, someone who didn't see it, the ending of the game,
Okay,
because
so
it is truly
the ending of Escape Dead Island, which is the only thing you can see me do because I forgot to archive the first 2 streams.
Also,
Thanks,
that last
Jeff
boss battle.
Bezos.
That last boss battle.
Yes. So yeah, it turns out that all of Escape Dead Island is taking place in the main character's head.
Okay.
And he's crazy, you see. It's a descent into madness. And then the way the game ends is it loops back around to the start of the game. It's like a weird time loop thing. And then you can new game plus through the game again, and things will be slightly different.
You have to play the entire game twice to get the actual story.
So it's a Nier Automata situation?
No, because Nier is good. And also, there are different things in that game.
Okay, it's not mostly the same game.
It's not mostly the same game.
Oh, boy. Well, that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, it was.
Any honorable mentions, Braden, for worst?
Daymare 94. I played through all of Fear Effect this year because someone goaded me into it. And I don't think Fear Effect is particularly good, but at least it's funny. And also, I think I found Deep Fear a little disappointing as someone who was very excited about Deep Fear.
All right.
It turns out that game, there's maybe a reason why it didn't come out in the US.
So don't check out Escape Dead Island is what you're telling me.
No, don't. You deserve better.
It's not even funny bad?
It's
just
not
bad?
even funny bad. It's just janky and broken and terrible.
All right. What game would you like people to know about, even if it is not particularly good or bad? What's stuck with you? What is the residue?
What is stuck with me?
Yes.
I think people should play, or people should look at. Oh yeah, no, people should look at Obscure, because Obscure is what if a bunch of French people tried to make a Resident Evil game in a haunted high school, but also had it have local co-op like a Lego Star Wars game.
Yes.
And I've been playing that with co-op partners, and boy, that thing is if you have any interest in survival horror, it's definitely a thing you can look at and play with another human being and go, this entire game is designed around co-op, and yet is it designed around co-op at all?
Yes. It's incredible how bad the camera is in that game. I love that every character has their own little trait, but most of the traits don't matter.
Are useless. There's a guy whose trait is he can pick locks faster, and so you can press the right trigger at any time, and he can go, there are no locks for me to pick here.
Yep.
That's his trait.
Their traits are usually like, is there a thing that they can interact with special in this room? Except for one character whose special trait is they use guns and bats better.
Yes. And the character whose special trait is he can run.
Yes. So it is, boy. But the fact that it works online on Steam.
Yeah, that Steam play together. That's actually the biggest takeaway is Steam's not parsec integration is actually pretty good. It's pretty painless if you want to play local multiplayer stuff together online.
Yeah, it worked quite well. I was impressed with that, and the overwhelming Frenchness of the American high school that they've made is really great. I love how little anyone who made the game knows about how American high schools function. It's great. It's very funny to laugh at.
It's a very exciting experience. I can't wait to eventually play Obscure 2, which is set in a college.
Oh, good.
What if I told you, Gino, that Obscure 2 also has a female character who walks around with a whale tail and her thong sticking out of her pants?
Finally.
Finally.
Finally a video game that's brave enough to make that character... No, that's probably bad. It's probably bad to look at. All right, so with the three main categories out of the way, ZP, did you have any category you wanted Braden's weigh-in on? Because I've got one, if you
This
don't.
is going to be something that I talk about because I feel like I'm the king of this. But, Braden, you've seen a lot of games with some cutscenes.
Yes.
What was your favorite cutscene and or FMV sequence of this year that you streamed?
Cutscene and FMV sequence?
And or
Oh,
FMV.
boy. Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. I'm trying to... There are some
I
real
was thinking of
bangers this year.
that underwater sequence with the submarine stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, Deep Fear. For as much as I think Deep Fear is it was Sega's attempt to make their own Resident Evil for the Saturn, and it's kind of boring. But every time a cutscene happens, there's magic. And there's an extended cutscene of the main character watching his sassy black sidekick get murdered by a sea monster in this very elaborate melodramatic way that people, you should look up the cutscenes for Deep Fear. Don't actually play it because it's not a very good survival horror game. But look up the cutscenes. Watch a playthrough.
All right, good to know. My question, which of all these horror games actually scared you? Did any of them actually get a jump out of you?
Did any of them scare me? I think most video games are bad at being scary. I did Kuon, which was a horror game from Software. That game
Gino.
has some pretty good, like, unnerving, scary stuff, even if it is also, like, kind of a budget Fatal Frame in terms of spooky Japanese atmospherics.
Okay. All right, CP, did you have any other special categories that you wanted some weigh-in on?
No, I just I wanted him. I know that it was overall kind of a disappointment, but I feel like that moment or sequence from Deep Fear is commendable, and I wish there were more cutscenes and the actual structure of the game was in better service of the
you
weirdery.
just run back and forth through a lot of hallways.
All right,
Yeah, you sure do.
My last question, because this is a dubious tower, are there any games that you think are a fun goof that you would recommend someone else for ironic playthroughs with friends?
Ironic playthroughs of friends. People should check out Song of Horror. If you want like a weird horror game to subject to other people.
Yes, if someone was trying to make content or had friends and wanted to sit on a couch and show them something weird.
Song of Horror is an indie horror game made by a Spanish studio, came out a couple years ago. And it is a survival horror game without combat, which means instead you have to do QTEs.
Sick.
And not open doors if you hear darkness on the other side.
How does one hear darkness?
You gotta listen to the door. You gotta go up to the door and listen to it. And if there's bad noises on the other side, you have to stop and not open it. Otherwise, you instantly die.
Sick. All right, that sounds fun. Well, thank you. Thank you for this summary of horror games.
I also played
the
the Legacy of Kain. That series, it's good. People should play the Legacy of Kain series.
Excellent.
Except Blood Omen 2. Blood Omen 2's bad.
I will check. At some point, I will check it out. Those
To hell
vampires,
with you, Dennis Dyack.
Those vampires seem to like each other.
Those vampires are they're very intense about their feelings for each other.
Yep. ZP, tell me about
Yeah.
the best adventure game you streamed this year.
So unlike you two, I actually prepared my own categories. I just didn't make sure that I did stuff. But anyways, these are the categories that I'm going to talk about before I throw things over and let you throw some weird balls at me. Throw your balls all over my face. Anyways, I've got best game. I've got weirdest game. I've got worst game. I've got worst individual puzzle and or brain teaser. And then best use of FMV.
Okay, those are good categories. That's going to cover a lot of the things I would have asked anyway.
All right,
So go ahead.
Going on over to best game, I've got Full Throttle. I even have expressed that I am not super impressed by Full Throttle, but I would not call it a bad game. I've got Sam and Max Hit the Road, a weird kind of early multimedia attempt by LucasArts. Some people forget this, but the comic book and or like weird animated shorts came out before the game, even though most people think that Sam and Max, the video game, was meant to segue into them. I've got Space Quest 3, kind of like, it's not Space Quest 4, but it's definitely a good entry into the series. It really does solidify. People always talk about how Sierra was the serious adventure game company and LucasArts was the place for you to laugh. And I just point them to like the early Space Quest games.
None of them are funny.
Companions of Xanth. This was a surprise when I started to go through the archives of Zom's library, Zom's lair. I don't think that Companions of Xanth is great, but that game has a level of charm and production values that I genuinely did not see. I think people sometimes forget about Legend Entertainment as like being able to punch with the big boys, and they kind of don't get the appreciation that they rightfully deserve. But my actual best game, and it was briefly free on GOG for a while, is Dragonsphere. Dragonsphere was kind of the big surprise for me. It is one of 3 Microprose adventure games that they made. The others being Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Genderbender. Phantom of the Opera. That's going to be in a different category, Braden. Don't spoil it. Which I have not played, but I will probably play at some point in 2024. And then they also made Dragonsphere, their kind of final Parthian shot before they sold their engine, their adventure game engine, to a different company, and then just basically said, okay, go make Civilization games with Sid Meier, please. That's the moneymaker, not these adventure games. Stop this. But it's an actual pleasurable game. It has a very interesting, if not authentically compelling plot twist. It's got world building up the wazoo. It's got some annoying fiddly bits here and there, but I overall really enjoyed Dragonsphere as a game, like an actual story that I thought was fun and interesting to follow and play. Moving on. Any questions from the Peanut Gallery?
What is the setting of Dragonsphere? That name is so generic, it's impossible to know.
Dragonsphere is kind of its own setting. It's its own setting. It's Microprose. It's the
it's fantasy.
It's Michael Bross does the music. The I believe, was it Brian Reynolds didn't make that. Brian Reynolds did the other 2. He did Return of the Phantom, and I think he definitely did Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Genderbender. But it's basically the Microprose strategy team having their third go at making an adventure game, and that's the best one.
So high fantasy, low fantasy, sci-fi.
It's a weird kind of mix. It's not sci-fi. The big thing about Microprose is that they really cared about rotoscoping. So it is a 256 color, basically 8-bit color game with rotoscoped animations. So it's an actually weirdly compelling visual experience.
Excellent. All right, so your next category.
Weirdest game, which I previously thought would be a bit of a fight, but it's not going to be a fight at all. My nominees include, my honorable mentions are Masters of Dimension, which is one of the first domestically made adventure games from Israel, Kingdom of the Far Reaches, Discworld, British McBritishes, Obsidian, which is a weird game that I actually would be a pretty good nominee for most disappointing game for me. It is a game from... I'm blanking here. It's a game published by Segasoft back when Sega had a Western studio. It was made by Rocket Science Games, which is Brian Moriarty and Will Harvey, as well as Steve Blank. And most people know them as the company that made the Space Bar, which is probably something that I need to play in to next year, 2024, because that game is weird and wild. But I was actually disappointed by that. And my final honorable mention, something that still sometimes gives me nightmares, the Pink Panther Hocus Pocus Pink. That game... And even the prequel,
Half to Peril.
Both of those games, I was not prepared for how just unhinged they are. They have weird musical bits where they're trying to teach you things through the form of music, but what they're teaching you is unfiltered lectures about things such as the consequences of colonialism, the Hindu caste system, the negative legacy of, Britain's time controlling Australia. They're both very, very weird games. And the fact that they don't sugarcoat any of this information that is being presented to you by the Pink Panther.
This is an edutainment game, ostensibly, for children.
So would you say the Pink Panther, you mean the cartoon The Pink Panther, or the, investigator?
The actual Pink Panther cartoon lion thing.
Because there's a Pink Panther, I think, Sherlock Holmes-y stand-in sort of character.
Yes, it is not Clouseau. It is the cartoon mascot, the Pink Panther.
Okay. All right.
And he's a talking cartoon.
He talks in this one? I thought the Pink Panther doesn't talk.
No, he talks in these games, which is also part of the weirdness.
Okay.
The first game is trying to find out why kids that are the sons and daughters of world leaders and ambassadors have been kidnapped. You find out that they've been replaced by robots in a scene that is genuinely terrifying.
There some messed up body
horror
stuff with robots.
What if I told you that an edutainment game has weird body horror stuff? Speaking of which, the sequel is even creepier because it features a girl being transformed into a hideous monster against her consent, and then also being possessed by an evil, vengeful Greek god that wishes to kill the world. And then his or her parents that have surgically remove their teeth to replace them with plastic teeth because they want perfect smiles. And so they take their teeth out and you see what they look like without their dentures.
What?
And
this is the cartoon that's just like ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. That one?
Yeah. Also, the second game brings up the topic of, let's say, relations between Israel and Palestine.
Huh.
In an edutainment game for children, circa the late 90s.
Well, that's incredible. Okay.
But
so that's not the winner, though?
No. It was almost a tie. I feel like I have to say the weirdest game is a tie. Because it has to be Commander Blood and Eastern Mine. Eastern Mine, I've said it before and I said it again. This is a game by the person who made LSD, the video game, and it is a weird reinterpretation of a dream journal fever dream reinterpretation of the teachings of Buddha mixed with Taoist philosophy and spirit transfer via like Hinduism and Buddhism. And I've always said that if I were to ever get one shot at forcing the Giant Bomb staff to like sit down and play a game with me and do an actual video series on Giant Bomb, my shot would be Eastern Mind, because I know that I would just that's my shot. That's it. That's going to be the game. But Commander Blood,
it has puppets.
It has FMV puppets.
It's French.
It's a game that ends with a musical dance sequence with puppets that look like Farscape. And every part of that game is equally weird and bizarre. And I guess I have to go with Eastern Mind because I've now played it twice and I still don't understand what I have played. But boy, find that game out there, as Jeff would suggest, because ain't nobody bringing that game to Steam or GOG or any place.
I see. So Eastern Mind with a runner-up of Commander Blood, and also somehow the Pink Panther. Excellent. What is your next category? I have no follow-ups here.
Worst game.
Asking you to describe Eastern Mind is a fool's errand. People just need to look it up and see the screenshots. I even wrote something on Giant Bomb. Go to the Eastern Mind wiki page and you'll find my write-up.
There is also, you forget, there's a part in Eastern Mind, Lost Soul of Tongnu, where the game asks you if you're over 18 before you enter the room.
No, I don't. I didn't forget. You can't forget what's in that room.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
that's
the last
all
part
I'm gonna say.
Where it's important that only those of you that are above the age of 18 play that game.
Or go into that room.
Worst game. So, worst game, Jack Keane 2. This game is actually busted. It performs poorly on modern technology, and it's actually not good. It's not good. It's basically the character that you developed a relationship with Jack Keane. Apparently, they are now in a fraught relationship, and it's your weird BioWare dialogue choices are between two women, one of whom eventually betrays you and tries to sell you out to the villain. And then also it has weird, poorly placed and designed platforming sequences. It's got quick time events. It's just all of the post-2000 2010s milieu in a single game, and it's all terrible.
Yes. So having watched you play Jack Keane and Jack Keane 2, Jack Keane, the first Jack Keane is very much part of a surprisingly large tradition of European adventure game makers who really liked Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis and said, what if we made our own? With all of the fun racial sensitivity one would expect.
There's a part where you go to India.
Adventure game developers
right. There's
in the
a part
mid-2000s.
where you go to India. And what if I told you that they didn't hire actual people who are of Indian descent to voice the characters?
They had their voice actors do some accents.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second game plays like trash, and it runs like trash. But I'm honestly surprised you didn't pick a different game for your worst game.
No. These are the nominees. These are we got more to go. We got more to go because after Jack King, we have Eric the Unready. This game is unfucking funny as hell. There's a part where you're commanding a flotilla, and it's just a giant walking Star Trek reference with a Scotsman whose name is Scotty. It's Legend Entertainment before they made the jump from like traditional text novels, text adventures to like actual graphic adventures, and it sucks. Very sophomore humor, just bad. My other honorable mention is Lost Horizon 2. It's not good. It's a bad follow-up to Lost Horizon 1, which I thought was okay to average. It's also of that same crease of Jack Keen 2, where it's like, this is clearly a developer who bit off more than they could chew, and they want to do the adventure game circa Indiana Jones thing. Now, the next couple here. I've got a trifecta of crap. So, in third place is Bot Colony, because that game is basically an adventure game. It's been in development for almost a decade. The developer keeps saying that they're going to make progress, and now they have promised that they are going to use generative AI to fill in the gaps and actually complete the game, which I think is absolute garbage, horseshit. Do not support that game. It's still only the first two. It's still only 2 levels that they promised when they first went into early access. Even if, since they've disabled the text-to-speak stuff, playing it with a parser, playing it actually typing in the commands for your character is still a miserable experience. In second place is 15 Days. Oh boy, what is there to say about 15 Days? It is House of Tales, which is, there's a lot to say about House of Tales. These are the people who started off their careers with The Mystery of the Druids, which is maybe something I actually need to play, but honestly, just watch the Mandalore game video for Mystery of the Druids. 15 Days is a studio that has always struggled in terms of making competent works, doing their best Ocean's 13 heist tale. And it features all of these characters that are just weird, trope-laden amalgamations of things that don't feel real. Every NPC person that you talk to, you just click a single dialogue icon, and then they say things, they pantomime emotions, and it's like, none of this feels in any way, shape, or form authentic. And the actual cutscenes that are meant to be these epic, pre-rendered game engine moments are just, it's an incompetent hour exercise. It's one of the most incompetently made video games I played in all of 2023. But the actual worst game that I played, a game that I went into at the suggestion of a, let's say, friend of the site, Relkin, is AD 2044. Because this game
What about Vertigo?
I didn't hate Vertigo as much as I maybe.
What is AD 2024?
AD 2044 is a manifesto against. God damn it, you're right. I did forget about Vertigo. I guess I don't consider that an adventure game. It's more of a. God, I don't know.
It's a bad Telltale game that is a quote-unquote reinterpretation, a reimagining of Alfred Hitchcock's classic film, but incredibly slow and drawn out, and maybe one of the weirdest
things that came out of a studio that I previously liked. Yeah. But even then, I think that AD 2044 is actually worse.
Yes, AD 2044... You're right. That is worse.
That game is actual anti-feminist propaganda. It envisions a world in which all men are dead, and now society is run by women. And of course, now that women are running society, what do? They create a totalitarian state where they hunt men violently and viciously and kill them. What else, Gino? It's one of the ugliest games I played, like just downright hideous. It's got zero nuance. Most of the puzzles in the game are just terrible. I need to point out, like, one of the puzzles that you need to do. I'm going to just read what I wrote here. It's time to deal with the guard that's guarding your apartment complex. To trigger this sequence, you need to click a cigar box to get a single cigarette and light it by connecting it to the matches in your inventory. It's now time to review how to use the items in here. When you apply the smoking cigar to the alarm, it starts blaring, and the guard, wearing a thong leotard police outfit you'd expect out of a strip club's Halloween night party, will run into the room. You need to then move your mouse cursor over their mouth until it turns into a pair of lips and kiss her directly on her mouth to cause her to fall back, land spread eagle, and blow up into a million pieces.
What?
Also, all the women are fembots.
Yeah, all the women are fembots that are appropriately portioned. The mecha fembot has thick thighs and big boobies, and you defeat her by creating a tripwire because her proportions are so ridiculous that she can't actually move if she falls over.
Okay, so less game, more screed, is what you're saying.
It hates women.
It hates women.
Most adventure games hate women. At least the ones he plays. But this one actively hates women.
Worst puzzle. I'm going to go through this quickly. Shivers features a Chinese solitaire Chinese checkers puzzle that has exactly one solution. Sucks shit. I hate it so much. Bot Colony. Actually picking up the pepper grinder is not the hardest part, but there's the sequence with the travel bags where you have to take luggage in a compartment or a part of a airplane. That is the actual worst part of the game. Other nominee, Wean the Prophecy. You might have forgotten this one, Braden. This is the one where there is a puzzle where literally you have to find 3 pixels on the screen. And then you need to click them to find 3 pieces to like an amulet to construct it and then kill an evil thing. The problem is the pixels are brown and they are on dirt, a dirt background. It is a pixel hunt. Not fun.
That's a good way to hide those pixels.
Honorable mention, second place, is the Feeble Files. So there's 2 parts here. This game actually might, if I write up something about the Feeble Files, there's a part here where I would maybe even consider giving an 11 out of 10 on my scale because I actually needed to cheat in order to beat it. The Feeble Files has an interesting, weird sequence that is notorious in that it is an arcade sequence where you need to play mini games in order to collect a certain number of points to progress the story. Now, the problem is that of these arcade games, first off, it's a press your luck format where exponentially you get more tokens by playing a second thing. You need to get like 200 tokens, and the only way for that to be even viable is for you to like play 3 games in a row. If you lose on the third press your luck event, you just lose everything. And these games have different like gameplay methods. Most of them are pure luck. Some of them are very complicated computational, like being able to calculate things as if you're a 250 ELO chess player. And then it has maybe the worst version of Mastermind I've ever seen my entire life. Funny thing about the Feeble Files in that particular sequence, this was so notoriously difficult that AdventureSoft, which made the game, had to release a save game on their webpage to just allow players to continue after the arcade game sequence because they got so many complaints about how hard it was.
So it doesn't sound like it's hard so much as it is unfair. Like you just need to luck into it. Okay.
Which is why I would say it is not the actual worst puzzle. The worst puzzle I played came from Time Lapse. This is a Myst clone. And basically what happens is you're going through different ancient cultures. You go to the Anasis, and there is a part where you need to activate a Sun Watcher's spiral, and there are 3 clues. The first clue says that you need to watch the path of the hawk to see where you must shoot an arrow. The second clue says that there are 3 different arrowheads. And then the third clue says, shoot straight as the wind blows. What you need to do is you need to take a bow and arrow with the correct arrowhead and shoot it in the correct position between 2 stone pillars, like
okay,
through the middle. Here's the problem. The wind direction is not communicated to you in any way, shape, or form and is randomly selected every single attempt.
Oh, sick.
The game does not communicate the characteristics of each of the unique arrowheads. They're all inappropriate, like disparately placed on the map, so that's fun. And then also, you only got 3 uses per arrowhead, and you can only carry 2 out of 3 of them at a time.
Ah! And how many pillars are there?
There's 2. It is something to where basically the best chance that I read of cross multiple guides was just pick 2 and then keep going at it until you finally get the spawn rate to work in your favor.
So it's just random. You're just firing.
It is random. It's not a good part. It's in fact actively just unfun. It's wild because that game is already a pretty difficult time. It is maybe the most brutal Myst clone I have ever played. And boy, yeah. The part where the arrowheads actually have these characteristics, these unique characteristics, and the wind direction like changes whenever you attempt and fail. And also, I forgot the point here. Depending on the wind, you actually need to position as if you're playing a first-person shooter completely different, like in terms of where you're aiming the arrows. So your entire screen will, depending on where you click to shoot the arrow, will shoot the arrow in a completely different direction. So you have to worry about the weight of the arrowheads. You have to worry about the shape of the arrowheads. You have to hope and pray that the wind direction is going in your favor. You have to hope that even if you have the correct arrowhead with the correct weight, that you find the correct direction or position that you need to shoot the arrowhead to make it go through the stone pillars. It's just terrible. Genuinely a terrible puzzle that basically boils down to just brute force it.
Sick. All right. What is the next category?
The next category is best use of FMV, and I've kind of already spoiled it, but I'll go over some of my honorable mentions. The first one is maybe the best use of FMV that I experienced, period. I would even say that this is better than the FMV use of Alan Wake 2. The Lost Files of Sherlock Holmes, The Case of the Rose Tattoo. This game is maybe the most ambitious use of FMV I have ever seen. It might be the most ambitious, creatively ambitious FMV game ever made, in that it is a historical reinterpretation of Sherlock Holmes. Everything features these fairly intricately and well-animated FMV actors. I said it's historically involved. At one point, you realize that this is set in the twilight of the pre-World War I Victorian era, to where you find out that the big conspiracy is between Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany and Bismarck, and you end up siding with Victoria and her relative Kaiser Wilhelm to fight back that evil rapscallion Bismarck. And then Sherlock Holmes gets knighted by an actual person who's supposed to be Queen Victoria. It's amazing.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I've already talked about Obsidian. The one nice thing that I can say about Obsidian is that it has maybe the best intro to an FMV adventure game, like an actual good, impressive, like mood-setting start that it just does not know how to follow up at all. Hell, a cyberpunk thriller is also a good one. It's not FMV as actually no, it does actually have real FMV because there's the weird people parts where they're like the hologram people. That game is hideous and terrible to look at and just a weird adventure. I do not recommend it, but boy.
I saw some of that. That thing's profoundly strange.
And And now caught at I'm caught in a weird position because there's the traditional FMV and then there's Commander Blood. Like Commander Blood has actual puppets. It's such a weird look. But Braden, what about Gothos?
What about Gothos? Let me tell you.
What about the weird game?
These people
wanted to make a vampire adventure game.
It's an adventure game with vampires and full motion video.
And clearly
and some bad audio mixing.
Clearly, the people who made this game went to a Spirit Halloween store when they were having a sale, and they thought, we want to make an adventure game, and I guess we're going to make it FMV. And the best part about Gothos is just like finding every single weird FMV kill animation, death animation, and scene with these NPCs. The actual process of playing Gothos is no fun, but boy, you can tell that the developers were doing the acting, and that's the best part. I think I'm still going to give it to Commander Blood, though. Because Commander Blood... Man, Commander Blood is something.
Oh, wow.
It has a sequel that only came out in France.
And it's
good.
Not... There's no fan translation, so... Man.
I'm looking at screenshots of this, and I'm very... Wow. I'm impressed. Yes. Yes, Commander Blood is what you want.
You might actually want to play Commander Blood. Also don't.
But also don't.
But also, like, it is one of the most pick up and deliver, like, hey, go find the quest giver. There's like 15 planets for you to check out. Find them.
But look at how it looks, though.
Yeah, if only it was in a game that was fun to play.
Okay. Is that your last category?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that covers most of the things I would have asked you. Though, I will ask the same question I asked of Braden. If you had to pick one of these to show a friend, to be like, look, aren't video games great?
It's Eastern Mind. It's
Eastern Mind?
Just
okay.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Excellent. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure if Commander Blood, perhaps.
Commander Blood is fine, but like Eastern Mind, there's nothing like it. There truly is nothing like it.
Excellent. All right, I think that means it's now my turn to go over the deck builders that I played this year. And the best deck builder I played this year is kind of... it's kind of hard to say, because boy, howdy, do a lot of deck builders play like Slay the Spire. And so there are some that I played this year that just play like Slay the Spire with different characters. And you can only be so bad if you play like Slay the Spire. But I think I'm going to go with Chrono Arc as the best one of these that I played this year. It's a very anime-inspired Slay the Spire-like, where you're building a party of like 4 adventurers, but it also has a time-looping story to it that is slowly meted out as you play the game. I found the characters to be pretty interesting in terms of how they play, like from a story perspective, to take it or leave it. But it's trying to tell a story through a roguelike deck builder in a way I appreciate it. You are not just doing the same run over and over and over again. There is more going on, and I found the characters to be interesting to play as, so I actually wanted to try out all the different builds and all the different character archetypes. So, like, it's a cool look, and also it's actively being updated still. So it's pretty easy to get in now. It's been fixed or improved since I first played it. But it is one of these games that I probably played the most or close to the most, because it had that nice blend of the gameplay being compelling, there being enough of a story reason for me to keep trying to play it, and it's actively being improved. So there was new cool stuff to check out every time I rebooted it. So I'm going to say Chrono Arc is probably the one I would recommend right now to check out. it's in a good spot. It's got interesting stuff, but it is not like completely foreign. Did y'all see Chrono Arc? Did you have any questions on Chrono Arc?
That seemed like the best one you were playing.
So just to clarify, the story is done, or is there more
anime?
It's more to say? Is there more to like? Is there future updates? Are
there
the future updates going to like continue that story? Huh.
So I got to a conclusion. There appears to be a further conclusion that has not been made yet. So I got an ending, but I don't think the like true ending is in the game yet. At one point, your character has the choice to like stay in the infinite loop or leave or break the infinite loop, and there's a dialogue option, and the option where you like break the wheel, as it were, was not available. So I had to pick the like stay in the loop option, which that's not how it's going to be eventually. So unclear when that final like story bit's going to come in, and like there were mechanics getting added actively. It's got a little bit of that early access itis where they just keep adding mechanics and adding stuff. Like there's a relationship system now and a gift system that didn't exist when I started playing that game. But most of the stuff they've added has not like completely made the game overwhelming in my estimation. I don't think they've added so much stuff that it's unintelligible to play, as opposed to some of the other games that I've played where, for example, like Beyond the Obelisk, where there's just so many mechanics that have just been added in because it was in early access for so darn long. So yeah, I think Chrono Arc is probably the sweet spot. In terms of the worst roguelike deck builder that I played this year, that one's not hard to say. It's Neurodeck. It sells itself as a roguelike deck builder where you're going to face fear. You're going to help people face their fears and overcome their traumas through a roguelike deck builder.
Finally.
Yeah, there are two characters.
Yeah.
Each of which have their own like setup, so they have their own decks basically. Like one's a college student, one's a mom. And the fears, so every encounter, because it's a roguelike deck builder that plays like Slay the Spire, every encounter is a phobia, and each of the phobias is just like a random enemy, right? But they have the same attack pattern depending on what the phobia is. So like you might be fighting the fear of insects, or you might be fighting the fear of pregnancy, or you might be fighting the fear of masculinity. And depending on which one of those fears you get, they have a different attack pattern and different mechanics to the battle. I found the look of those fears to be kind of cool. They're like silhouettes, but you're fighting the same like 10 battles every time. Those are the only 10 battles there are in the game, really. And it's just totally incoherent, like completely totally incoherent. The cards, some of the cards are like take a walk or journaling or watch some old videos of your family. And then some of the cards are like alcohol or pills. And the alcohol and the pills, they make you stronger. Because when you're dealing with mental health problems, what you really want to seek out, if you got the right build, is drugs and alcohol. That's really what's going to help you overcome your problems. So like just completely totally inconsistent. Like, why do some of these cards do what they do? Very unclear. Like, why does journaling deal damage to things? Why does this videotape like draw you cards? Like, there's a bunch of just complete tonal nonsense. And I found it particularly shallow, and because of the subject matter they chose to take up, the fact that they made a bad Slay the Spire is extra insulting. Just like poorly executed idea, but also the idea itself is bad.
I'm building a self-care deck.
That's, I wish I could have built a self-care deck, but, the alcohol deck was actually pretty strong. Yeah, I actively abstain from, like, using some of the cards, even if they were facially good, because of how bad of the message it was sending.
But Gino, what will I do? What if what will I do when my workplace wellness policy asks me to play this game instead of having them pay out of pocket for therapy.
And that is actually, speaking of, that's kind of the story setup of this, is that you're like a researcher who's applying this deck builder on these people to get them over their problems, and that they are basically test subjects who are being helped through real issues through the power of deck building. There's also just like straight up bad mechanics. Like you can unlock cards for future runs, and it's supposed to be like a personality test. But the personality test, if you give the same answer every time, you just don't unlock cards. So you just you end up having to pick all of the options so that you get all the unlocks. It's just like, it's also the worst one of these deck builders I've played. So like, even if the tone was better, I wouldn't recommend it. It's lesser than all of the other ones. So yeah, don't check out Neurodeck, even if it's on sale, which is why I got it. In terms of games that I think people should check out, a game that I think people should check out that, may not be, the best or the worst. I think Backpack Hero is pretty cool. It's the one I'm playing currently. And it is a combination deck builder and Resident Evil inventory management game. Like, you're building a Resident Evil style inventory that's like expanding, and you're putting items in there, and you're using the items to overcome progressively more difficult battles. And there's also like a town building mechanic in there too, which I found kind of wild, unnecessary but cool. And the game's very punny. It's very cute, and it's pretty low impact. It does get more difficult as you go and unlock more characters, but it's something that I think is still enjoyable, even if you're not like a diehard deck builder person. Do y'all have any categories for me? Any questions?
Okay. Here's my question. What is the most sicko deck builder?
Most sicko. So you mean like deck builder for someone who wants to build decks,
deck
right?
builder for someone who loves
has an obsession or just like purely is in it. Like, let's say that someone who has spent like $10,000 on a commander deck for competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you giving him? What are you giving them?
So I've got two answers, depending on which type of sicko they are. So I think Beneath Oresa, which I played this year, it's a Slay the Spire like with more mechanical density, I would say, than Slay the Spire. Like, it's just got more stuff going on, more mechanics going on. And the higher difficulty runs of that are actually quite difficult. So like, that's a good one if you're just like, I want Slay the Spire, but more harder, faster, more intense. And it's got it's got a pretty good visual look to it too. So that, I would also say my other answer, if you just want the most card game, if you just want to be playing a deck builder all the time forever, Across the Obelisk is the game you want. It is a roguelike deck builder where you've got 4 party members. You have to unlock more party members. You start with 4. You can unlock up to, I think, like 16 or more party members, not even including buying DLC. You need to level up your party members so that they have perks, so that they can have the starting HP they should have and the damage they should be dealing. You have to unlock all these party members. You have to unlock the cards that you're putting in your deck, and there's like equipment. You can level up like 3 different ways for each of your party members. So you basically need to be doing runs on runs on runs on runs to unlock the ability to do the high level runs, so that, and by the time you've unlocked that, you need to have unlocked all the perks so that your characters are capable of doing those runs. It's a game that demands altogether too much of your time to engage with it at its highest level. But if you're a sicko, that is a game where it seems like the average play time is either like 1 hour or 500. And there's no one in between. Either you like buy in and you're like, yeah, I want to play only this, or you bounce off of it because it's just demanding too much. So I would say Across the Obelisk is probably the right answer. It's just, man, it was too much for me. I beat it. I got through it. I started to get to the like prestige mode that all of these games have. And I just was like, no, thank you. No mas. Cannot play it for the amount of hours it would take to even see the real content, because you have to unlock the stuff to even approach the real content. It's too much. And the runs take 3 hours, too. I didn't say that. But like an average run of that game, if you're successful, takes like 2 to 3 hours. Most of these games, like Beneath Oresa, I would recommend because an average run is like 30 to 40 minutes. That's reasonable. I could do that on a lunch break if I felt like it. Or, if I had some time to kill. Across the Obelisk, you need a day to do a run. Or, you can do 2 runs if you're failing. It's just too much. I feel like I should also just shout out for like weird games. Alina of the Arena is another really good one. It's like a mix of it's a deck builder, but it's also kind of Into the Breach at the same time. Like it's more of an Into the Breach, like positioning and hex grid combat system where you just have to be very cautious about what you play. But at the end of the day, you're still building a deck and your attacks take the form of cards. So that's a really cool one. I wish there was more content to it. I felt like I got everything I needed out of it in about 10 or so hours. But it's a really cool combat system. Very cool idea. I would love to see a sequel. Any other categories or questions y'all have?
What would be if I'm only cardery curious? What would be the game? I'm card curious. What would be the game for me? Like I'm a card skeptic at heart, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you got one shot to show me this cardery to kind of bring me on board. What is what of your games? What was the on ramp other than Slay the Spire? It's clearly Slay the Spire, but
okay. If I had to pick, I mean, it's not so. I think if I had to pick an on-ramp that is very Slay the Spire adjacent, I would go with Beneath Oresa because it is just very much Slay the Spire but slightly different. If I had to pick one that is just like I think the most friendly to onboard someone, I'd go with Backpack Hero. It's not truly cards in the same way, or at least not until you unlock the character who's much more like cards. But I think it's just a much friendlier game. You'll get some wins early on, even if you don't min-max everything. I think it's cute. I think it's just a fun game. And it's got other stuff going on beyond just playing the grind of cards. And so that, I think, is a good one. And I forget if I did Luck Be a Landlord this year or if that was last year. But Luck Be a Landlord is another good one.
Every single year for the past, whatever years.
It's a good one. It's a good on-ramp. It's that game has a very, very fast pick up and play. It's something that you can jam out a game of Luck Be a Landlord in 20 minutes, which is, I think, important for getting better at these kinds of games. But again, you're not building a deck, you're building a slot machine, so it's a little bit different. But I think the principles are still the same.
Okay. Well.
All right. Did you have any other categories for me?
No. Braden,
Okay.
do you have anything
Best
to ask him about?
non-roguelike deck builder. Is it, or should I say non-roguelike or non-deck builder? You pick.
So still in the category of games I like.
You streamed, yes.
Games that I streamed that were not a roguelike or a deck. I mean, I streamed Signalis this year.
Yeah,
that game's
well,
sick.
I mean, in terms of games that are deck builders but not roguelikes, or roguelikes but not deck builders.
Okay. Deck builders but not roguelikes. Backpack Hero has roguelike. I guess I'd have to go with. Just by this convention, I'm gonna have to go with Tales and Tactics, I guess, because Tales and Tactics, it's an auto chess game. It is not technically a deck builder,
Even though it's still a drafting game.
It's still a drafting game, but it's technically not a deck. It's not a deck.
It's from the people who made the Slay the Spire Downfall mod.
It is, or Luck Be a Landlord because it's a slot machine and not a deck. Or Backpack Hero, because it's a backpack and not a deck. But most of these were roguelike in some way. I'm about to play one that's not a roguelike in Potionomics, but I haven't touched it yet, so I can't say that. I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't lie to you, dear listeners, by telling you a game that I haven't actually played yet. I wish I could say Fights in Tight Spaces, but it's actually a roguelike and it's a deck builder. But that, if I had to come up with another category, like which is the coolest looking of these games I played, like what is a game that I would show someone to like visually, roguelike deck builders don't present very well, folks. They don't. Like, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to sit someone down. Fights in Tight Spaces, maybe I could.
Here's the other thing. Like, if you come to video games, I don't mean to like completely diminish the entire genre, but if you come to video games for like narratives and storytelling, roguelikes in general just are not going to be your thing at all.
Generally,
like I feel like there are definitely some roguelikes and even some deck builders that have contributed to furthering some interesting narrative ideas, but in general, the genre is about snappy gameplay, jumping in, getting some good combat sequences, and just moving on. And I don't think that will ever lend itself to these epic storylines or wholeness to the worlds that we see in other genres.
Yeah, so I'm not like with y'all too, when I asked like what's the game I would show someone if I wanted to show them a cool game, I'm going to say for me it would be Fights in Tight Spaces, just because it's basically a John Woo or like Jason Statham card game. Mm-hmm. Like you're just like a nameless spy who's beating people up with cards that are like punching, kicking, throwing. And then at the end of the battle, after you've beaten up all of the ninjas and random bikers, you can press a button and then watch the fight play out without the cards. So you just see basically a cutscene of your spy kicking everyone's butt, which is really cool. So that's probably the one that presents the best of any of these. And it has at least some story to grab onto, though not like a lot. All right. So I think that's our Twitch year in review across our three most frequent streamers on the Deep Listens family of podcasts.
Anybody have any interesting ideas or retools or things that you're planning that you're excited about? I think I'm probably just going to keep on keeping on.
I have some ideas.
I got to do more adventure games and I got to do more Myst clones. This
character
Riven
action games, baby.
This Riven re-release has like I might just do an entire month of nothing but Forgotten Myst clones in lieu of the Riven remaster coming up in
the Final Fantasy IX re-education we've talked about actually picking back up.
Yeah,
and
probably
doing a collab stream on that. So that's an idea I'm putting out into the ether, but you know, more news on that later. But yeah, I'm probably going to keep on keeping on, and I'll probably check out some more JRPGs. The trouble is trying to play JRPGs like
without the internet trying to spoil shit for you.
No, I'm more like the volume of JRPGs I could cover in the same amount of time that I've been covering these deck builders.
Welcome to my life.
It's just that's the tough part, is trying to like I've picked up Tales of Berseria. I played some Suikoden 2. I need some ability to pull the ripcord on those games because I would like to play more obscure JRPGs. Oh my god, I forgot a game. How could I have forgotten? The actual game that's the weirdest that you should show people. I forgot. Final Fantasy Unlimited, the card game.
Oh shit.
Oh fuck.
How could I forget? That's the actual weirdest game, and also probably the worst card game that I played this year, because the card game sucks. But yeah, they made there's a Final Fantasy Unlimited card game, on video game card game that came out.
That I mentioned offhand during the podcast when we were talking about the anime. It's like, hey, there's a card game. Gino's like, I need this.
I need to play it. Yeah, so I had to find one of my friends who speaks more fluent Japanese than I do, so that I could find, because it's Japanese only. Can't believe it.
And it is a weird reinterpretation, or basically it is just still screens of the show stitched together chronologically it's just a retelling of the anime.
Yeah.
But now, instead of having the soil shooting bullet stuff, it's a card battle that moves things forward.
Well, they have the cutscene where he's like, the appropriate soil has Kimata. I've picked the soil. And then it jumps to a card battle instead of showing the cutscene of, him summoning. And the card battle, they tried to do like a turn-based combat system, but expressed through cards. So like cards move up. There's like 3 stages. They can go from like stage 0 to the battlefield, and after they attack, they go back to like stage 1 or stage 2. So like they spend a couple of turns not capable of attacking, and then every turn they will work their way up to the field of battle where they can attack. And there's just not a lot of depth there. It's just you get better cards and you do better because your cards are better. There's not a lot of strategy. Mostly you're there for the amazing story of the amazing Final Fantasy Unlimited.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a thing I would recommend showing to people, because boy, that thing's a nightmare. What a game. What a game.
I think your stream of that game is maybe the most coverage that thing has ever gotten in the English language.
Yes. And I will follow up more. I need to archive. I might have forgotten to archive it. I might need to check that out again and archive my streams, because that thing is hard to find, I'll say. So I think that covers it for our Twitch year in reviews. Remember, like, my Twitch is twitch.tv/that.
Oh, this is an interesting idea.
Oh, go ahead.
Damn.
Okay.
We play some weird off the end games, right?
Yep.
So clearly, like, the answer for you, Gino, now is that Unlimited. I'm just wondering, what are some other games that you think that we are the majority content provider if we actually took it seriously and started archiving our stuff? Like, I think that there were a couple even card games, Gino, where you were like one of 3 people uploading any coverage of the game. And then Braden and I have this all the time. I have actually kind of maybe the funniest story I've ever had my entire life. But what are some games that you think we've covered where we might be the authoritative voice on it now? Or only voice on Twitch and or YouTube?
I mean, Tales and Tactics, the coverage I was giving of it was some of the only coverage I think that it was getting. To the point where the developer showed up in my Twitch stream and asked questions. So that's definitely one. And then Final Fantasy Unlimited, like, I think I'm one of the only... That game doesn't have a Twitch category. That's how weird it is. Braden, what about you? Any spring to mind?
I think I'm the only... So you need to understand that people who play horror games are weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when I was playing a game called Them and Us, which is an interesting indie Resident Evil type game that offers first person, third person, and fixed camera angle controls. I don't know if anyone else ever played that thing. But also, it would not surprise me if, like, it has been covered.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I think I was the only person who covered things like 15 Days, but I was definitely, I'm the only modern person who has covered a lot of those Legend Entertainment games, like Companions of Xanth, Shannara, and Death's Gate. And, like, when I was playing Time-Lapse, there was someone's like, hey, you're the first person I've ever seen that played Time-Lapse. That's cool. I remember playing that game like decades ago. And then obviously I've told this story before. When I was playing one of the reboot Zork games, a guy told me that, yeah, I follow Zork on Twitch. It's the only game I follow on Twitch. I just keep on the lookout for anyone who plays this Zork game that I really, really like. And it's the only game I care about on Twitch. And I've kind of racked my mind over it like, man, if I was that guy, what's the one game that would just be the only game that I follow and consume on the internet? Nothing else. I don't think I have a pick. I like variety. I know Gino would probably say Final Fantasy IX. He's just on the prowl for new Final Fantasy IX coverage, but I don't think I can think of anything where I would be that guy just out there waiting for someone to play the Zork reboot. Not even the original Zork. Want some rye? Of course you do.
It is amazing how once you're one of the only people covering some of this stuff, how people come out of the woodwork. All right. So, any other closing thoughts?
It's fun. Streaming's fun. Other
Streaming
than
is fun.
when the people who are into the game that you're streaming are a little too, let's say, extra. But
That's
hey,
true.
you know,
Some people have very strong feelings about how you should play the video game.
Yeah, I
And
would say that
they have a Twitch alert set up so they can drop in your chat and tell you.
I would say that I can count on one hand the number of times that happened. It was fewer than I thought, as they made a bigger push for streaming on Twitch and YouTube. But you know, it's cool. It's fun. Give it a shot. OBS is still a pain in the ass, but hey,
Less than it used to be.
less than it used to be.
I got a Stream Deck for Christmas, which means I can now put things on a soundboard.
I've got my Stream Deck set up. It is a game changer. It is very nice. All right, so you can follow me on twitch.tv/thatpinguino, ArbitraryWater, twitch.tv/ArbitraryWater, ZombiePie, twitch.tv/ZombiePie. We got our names. Way to go. Crushed it. And reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, get access to our Discord. And thank you for your time, Braden.
Thank you, Gino.
Thank you, ZP.
I can't believe that maybe my most anticipated title of 2024 is a remaster of Riven, but this is the type of person I am. I'm authentic. I'm genuine. Nothing fake about this.
You can trust him. Yeah, if we somehow get a Final Fantasy IX remake and a Riven remake in the same year, 2024, the year of the Deep Listens dream game, it's coming. And thank you, dear listeners. Till next time, peace.